Well, well, well. Welcome to the Crofty Rogues. Probably for the last time, in this season at least, because this is the last episode. I felt a little teary-eyed.
Did you?
I did. We'll get to that in a second. My name is John Cosgrove. I'm one half of the Crofty Rogues. I'm also one half of the Crafty Rogues, which is one of the world's greatest podcasts that features me, John Patrick Cosgrove, from Ireland, and this guy, Stephen James Aloysius Quinn, from Australia.
That's not exactly true. The James and Aloysius bit was false. The rest is true.
Do you have a middle name?
I do not.
You do now. It's called Jacobite.
Jacobite. Do you know why John brought that up? That's studio craft from John there. The Jacobite army, or the Jacobites, took on the British government army at the Battle of Culloden.
And it was featured
1746.
It changed Scotland forever. Now, such was the intensity of this week's show that I had to look up and see if they were being true to their word.
What do you mean?
Well, I wanted to hear where Jacobite came from.
Yeah.
And it comes from the Gaelic for James.
Okay.
Which, of course, is Seamus. And I have a brother called Seamus. That aside...
Oh, this is great stuff.
They were fighting the British government. Now,
Yes.
when I think of Britain and British, I think of England, Scotland, Wales, and maybe sometimes Northern Ireland. We're not going to get into that now. So I was thinking, are they just using that in the show instead of saying English? But no, it was the British government, because at that time, Britain was England and other British countries that weren't Scotland.
And at the Battle of Culloden, do you know who led the British government army?
Cumberland.
The Duke of Cumberland. Now, the reason we're telling you this is because the final episode of Men In Kilts, where Sam and Graham from the show, Outlander! That's the last time I may get to say it like that.
Unless Mitsubishi call.
That's very good, because they make Outlanders. Sam and Graham travel around Scotland, have been travelling around Scotland for 7 or 8 episodes, looking at historical and cultural touch points all across the land. And the final episode, the very moving, you were moved?
I was.
Final episode was about the Battle of Culloden, which, as John said, sort of shaped modern Scotland as we know it today, because it signalled almost the death of Highland culture.
Which, of course, is bagpipes,
Yes.
speaking Gaelic,
Yes.
and something else.
That would be wearing tartan, because after the British defeated the Jacobites at the Battle of Culloden in 1746,
They banned all those things.
they banned all those things.
Because that's what the Brits do when they win battles. Best to keep them out of your country, but this is not a political podcast.
Here's what I know. I'm old, but I wasn't actually at the battle. But here's what I know. It lasted merely 60 minutes. The Highlanders had blades,
We all love a good blade.
in joke, and the Brits had guns. So it was guns against blades.
And if you're showing your guns to blades, they'll be impressed.
Yes, it's very good by you. So many in-jokes so far in this show.
If people are watching this and they don't get those in-jokes, they need to talk to us. And we're friends of the Celtic Craft.
So Sam and Graham went to Culloden, and they went to the battle site, and then they spoke to some historians about what went on. And it was really interesting stuff. And one of the guys they spoke to was a well-known historian called Alistair Moffat, and he told some really, really good stories.
To the point where it felt like he was there.
Oh, it was really, really good stuff. And there's been a lot of, acting in this show, but you could tell that Sam and Graham were genuinely impressed.
Unlike this show.
Like this, yeah. Because acting generally requires rehearsal. They were really interested in what Alistair Moffat had to say.
One of the highlights of this show was when the 3 hipsters showed up to do the combat reenactment training.
Hipsters?
They had beards. They looked like they'd been drinking Pop's Blue Ribbon all day.
Unironically.
Or the night before.
Yes, and they explained, they went through the whole sort of array of weapons that were used at the battle. I've got some of them here for you. Broadswords, axes, dirks. Now, a dirk is a big knife. I only found that out after watching the show. And the thing is, at Celtic Craft, go to the website, kiltsandstuff.com, they have a lot of these weapons. I'm not quite sure where you take them in public.
We're not allowed anywhere near them.
But you can get these weapons at Celtic Craft, plus a lot of the kilts that were worn throughout the entire program.
Blades love weapons. I said that knowing that.
Yeah.
By the way, full disclosure, a blade is an Irish slang word for a lady friend.
While the battle, I'm deflecting. When the battle was going on, the Scottish people, the Highlanders, the British army thought they were singing, but what they were doing, they were recounting and reciting their ancestry. And by saying that, like, I'm the son of Jack, and who was the son of
Hamish.
Hamish. They are summoning the spirits of the dead.
It didn't help them. They still lost.
Nah, see, they did this thing called the Highland Charge, where they just ran at the opposition forces.
Here's the thing. I know it was 1746,
Yeah.
but if you're going to defeat an army, don't
Yeah.
run straight into the guys with the guns.
That's the issue. They had guns.
Yeah.
So it didn't end well. But it was a momentous and very significant battle that is still held with great reverence in Scotland today.
That site in Scotland is registered as a site that is preserved. Now, it was boggy and it was marshy. Again, they didn't really think this through. They needed to go to firmer land. It's all right for us saying in 2021 or whatever year it is that we're recording this, but 1746, you could have planned it better.
I'd just like to shout out to Boggy and Marshy. They are our public relations firm. They do great work for us. That's why we got this gig.
Anyway, we thoroughly enjoyed the series of Men in Kilts. I am now going to cancel my subscription to Star's channel. There's no real point in keeping it because it was the only reason I got it in the first place.
Thank you to the Celtic Craft for allowing us to have fun with it. And as we said, go to kiltsandstuff, the website.com, to check out what they have to offer. The store will be open again eventually right here in Minnesota.
And they did end the show, as they end every show, with a nip of whiskey in the glass. We don't have those fancy glasses, and if anyone from Celtic Craft is listening and they want us to have them and talk about them on camera, we'll gladly accept them. Until then, we're using our own sláinte. May you be half an hour in heaven before the devil knows you're dead.